So today our do now was to work on this worksheet I put at the front of the room. If you're not here, it will be in your folder at school. It's all about solving and graphing inequalities. So we did a bunch of this yesterday, and we're going to touch a little more on it today. And we got one last thing to learn about for Unit 1. We're almost done with the first unit, which is lovely. So let's go ahead and go over this together, guys. I would love to know, for those of you that worked through some of these, were there any that you found particularly difficult? Number 2? Okay, I'm going to circle that one. Number 2 was difficult. Any other ones? Number 3. Let's see, number 3. Any others that we had trouble with? Okay. Let's go ahead and just start at number 1, and we'll go through them together. So I made a little note at the top of this worksheet, and I said, remember, if at any point during your problem you have to multiply or divide by a negative number, we're going to be flipping the sign. So I think I would actually like for us to start with number 2 because we will be dividing by a negative. Let's start with an example of what that looks like. So on problem number 2, I have negative 3 times n, and I used n this time instead of x to help us not confuse it with the multiplication symbol. Negative 3 times n is less than 24. What would we do for our first step here?
Divide by negative 3.
Divide by negative 3, yes. And what were you saying, Keith? Oh, it's still frozen. Thank you. Guys, I swear. Sometimes when I hit the unfreeze button, it's like I accidentally hit it twice and then it refreezes it right away. Let's see. Here we go. Okay, so number 2, we have negative 3 times n is less than 24. And Amanda, you said we're going to divide by negative 3. So we're going to divide by negative 3 on this side. Where else do we need to divide by negative 3?
By 24.
On 24. Good. And let's be careful here. Remember, I just told you that rule. If we divide by a negative, what do we need to do?
Flip your sign.
We're going to flip our sign. Here's what that looks like. So as I go through, I'm going to cross out my negative 3s. Those cancel out, leaving me with what? N. Good. N is by itself. And since we divided by a negative, less than becomes greater than. We're going to flip it. Because a negative, I like to think of the word negative as just meaning opposite. Anytime you do something negative, you're doing the opposite of what you would normally do. So instead of keeping our sign the way it was, since we divided by negative 3, we flip it to greater than. So I have n is greater than, what is 24 divided by negative 3? Negative 8. Ooh. So 24 minus 3 is 21. But we're dividing by negative 3. Divide by negative 3. And if drawing the line and then writing your number gets you mixed up sometimes, I noticed some of us also, whenever I would show multiplication with the parentheses, it would mix us up sometimes. I'm okay within your work if you were writing out that division symbol, if it helps you divide by negative 3. And that is perfectly fine. So 24 divided by negative 3, what did we say that was? Negative 8? Yeah. Negative 8. Oop, I don't know why I just voted 1. Negative 8. Okay, so that is our answer. We'll circle it. N is greater than negative 8. So now we have our inequality solved. Before we go to graph, does anyone have questions about this process here? Okay, so we have our answer. How do we graph it?
You're gonna put -8 on the tick mark,
Good. Label my tick mark first. -8 goes there.
and then you're gonna go to the right side
We are going to go to the right side because it is greater than.
with an open circle.
Yes. So we're going to write our -8. We're going to draw our circle. And why is it an open circle?
Because it is just less than or greater than.
Yes, it's just either less than or greater than. In this case, it's greater than. If it is less than or equal to, or greater than or equal to, then we would shade that circle in. So we're going to leave the circle open and shade to the right. All right. Any questions on number 2? Okay. Let's go back to the first problem. Yes, go ahead.
On the -8,
Mhm.
I was going that way because on the thing it said
Negative.
Because of the original sign that says less than?
oh, you floated on them to me.
Yes. So the only reason we're shading to the right and the reason we switched our sign to greater than, we flipped our sign, it was because we divided by a negative number. Yes. So that's our exception. If we ever divide by a negative or multiply by a negative, our sign changes and we shade in the opposite direction. Okay. Any other questions on number 2? That was a good question. Okay. I'm going to move my paper back up and let's start going through these in order together. Number 1, I have n plus 3 is greater than 12. What should I do first here?
Take the 3.
Yes, we've got plus 3. We want to take that 3 away. We'll subtract 3 minus 3. Where else do I subtract 3?
12.
12. Good. My 3's will cancel. And then when we want to bring everything down, n is greater than 12 minus 3 is what?
9.
9. Okay. So our answer should be n is greater than 9. What does our graph look like?
Put the 9 on the line.
9 on the line.
Circle thing.
Circle the thing.
And go to the right.
And go to the right. Is my circle opened or closed?
Open.
Open. Good. Very good. Any questions on number 1? That one was a little more straightforward. So good. Anybody? All right. I'm going to scooch my paper down. And let's look at number 3. This was one that we highlighted as being maybe a little tricky. So, number 3, we have n, some number we don't know, divided by 5 is greater than or equal to -2. When I have a division problem, how do I get rid of the number I'm dividing by? I'm trying to get rid of 5. Multiply. We're going to multiply by 5. So I'm going to multiply by 5. And I know I said I was going to try not to use the x for multiplication, but I think I'm being too progressive with that. I think the x helps some of us. So let's write, I'm going to do the parentheses, but I'm also going to do times 5. Does that help remind us that this is multiplication?
I do that anyway.
Right. I think whenever I'm looking at your guys' work, walking around the room, I'm like, y'all are all doing the times symbol. We'll do it. We'll do it.
It's got to at once.
So what happens on this side of our equation with the 5s?
Then
They cancel. Good. And that will leave us with what over here?
n.
Just n. N by itself. And then,
Bring down the greater to equal.
good, bring down the symbol, greater than or equal to. And what is -2 times 5?
Negative 10.
-10. Now, in this problem, would we need to flip our sign?
No, because
No.
you're not multiplying by a negative.
No, you wouldn't. Now this is tricky because you think, well, I am doing -2 times 5, so I am kind of multiplying by a negative. We only change the sign if we're multiplying by a negative that is being separated from the variable. So if this was -5 over here, then we would flip the sign. But the -2 was already there. It was already there. Okay, so we don't actually have to flip it in this case.
So only if it's on the side of the variable.
Yes, it's only when you're multiplying both sides by a negative. And when it's attached to the variable, typically. Okay, so n is greater than or equal to -10. What's my graph look like?
-10 over the tick,
Good, -10 on that tick mark.
circle and fold it in,
Circle, close it in. Good.
go to the right.
And to the right. Got a lot of greater than on here already. Go to the right. Very, very nice. Does that clear that one up a little bit for you, Misty, or is there, you still have any questions?
Yes.
Okay, good, good. Okay, are we ready for number 4? Let's do it. Number 4, I have -6 plus n is greater than 3. What would I do here?
I'll subtract 6.
Subtracted 6. Okay.
Added.
Oh, okay, good. You correct. Good, good, good. We're adding 6. Perfect. Both sides. And what happens over here?
Cancels.
They cancel. Perfect. So what do I bring down?
N,
N
greater sign,
greater than.
9.
Yep, 6 plus 3 is 9. N is greater than 9. So how would I graph that?
9 above the tick,
9 over my tick mark.
circle and leave it open,
Circle, leave it open. Perfect.
stay to the right.
Stay to the right. Very good. That is perfect. Okay.
I have a problem.
What's your problem?
My problem is, I don't know if everybody else has this problem, but that little line next to the 6,
Mhm.
and then the plus, it confuses.
Oh,
It confuses you. I think you're not alone on that because I think sometimes you see this and it's like -6 plus n. It's weird having the variable not coming first. Whenever you have a number that's negative, especially, it can be kind of confusing looking. But as long as you're still thinking step by step and saying, okay, well, I have an n and I have a -6 or a -6, kind of the same thing. How do I get rid of the 6? And then I'll have n by itself. You'll still be doing that same process about -6, +6, or +6. And that'll get rid of it. I bet you that leftover plus sign is what makes it feel a little odd. I like to think of a plus sign almost like an and sign. Just putting these together. We can, you could even, I don't know, you could cross this and say, this is and. -6 and n. How do I get rid of -6? +6. So I might start telling everybody that as well. And the sign is the same thing as a plus sign. You're just putting them together. Okay, let's go up to number 5. Okay, number 5. I have 2 operations this time. All the problems we've done so far have been 1-step inequalities. So now we're getting into 2 steps. Now I have n divided by 4 plus 3 is less than or equal to 15. What would I do first?
Subtract 3.
Perfect. We're going to subtract 3 from both sides. And I know I didn't give you a ton of room on these 2-steppers. So I apologize for that.
Bring
And
down your n over 4
good. Bring down n over 4
is less than or equal to
less than or equal to
12.
Let's see, 15 minus 3 is
12.
12. Good, 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 good. Okay, what do I do now? I have n divided by 4 less than or equal to 12.
Times 1.
Yes, times 4 on both sides. 4. Okay, so what happens on the side with the variable on my 4s? The 4s cancel, which is going to leave me with n by itself. And then I'll bring over my symbol.
Less than or
Good, less than or equal to. No, it's okay. That is something that I hear so many times. It's easy to say that. And then what's 12 times 4?
48.
48. So we got n is less than or equal to 48. So let's draw our graph. Number goes on the tick mark, 48. Open or close circle? Closed. Good. And shade to the left or the right?
Left.
Left. Towards the negatives, towards the minus. Very good. Very, very good. Any questions on number 5? Let's go ahead to number 6. Now, before we even start number 6, does anybody notice something funky going on in this problem where we're going to have to do an extra step?
-2 value variable.
Yes, we have a -2 times our variable. So we know we're going to have to eventually divide by a negative here. So what's going to happen?
Sign on flip.
We're going to end up flipping our sign. So it's good to keep that in mind. Anytime you see a negative sign on the variable, we know we're going to flip the sign at some point. So what do I do first?
Add 4.
Add 4. Good. Okay, so 4s will cancel. And what should I do next?
Bring down your 2 in. Your -2.
Good. Bring down -2n
Greater than 20.
is greater than 20. 16 plus 4 is 20. I'm writing kind of small here. Okay. What should I do now?
Divide.
Yes, I'm going to divide by -2. Now, here's where we got to be very, very careful. We're dividing by a negative. So that sign needs to flip. So what happens on the side with my -2's? They cancel. So I would be left with n by itself. Then I've got a greater than sign. What am I writing for my sign?
Greater than -10.
We divided by a negative. What happens to the sign?
They flip.
We flip it. So it was greater than, but since we divide by negative, we have to change it to what?
Less than.
Less than. Good. And then 20 divided by -2, -10. Perfect. That's our answer. N is less than -10. So whenever we are graphing our answer, especially if we flip the sign at any point, make sure you're looking at the sign in your answer. Because whenever I'm shading my graph, if I look at the original problem and I see, oh, it's greater than, I'm going to shade to the right, it will be wrong. We need to use our answer to help us make our graph, which is n is less than -10. So what's my graph going to look like here?
-10.
-10 on the tick mark.
Circle and shade to the left.
Circle, is it open or closed?
Open.
Open, good. And then we shade to the left. It's less than. Good. Those negatives are tricky. They are.
Hang them out.
You're telling me. Any questions about number 6?
Can
Yes.
you do it, can you do another one, cause I'm.
Yes,
I'm-
yes.
That negative next to the variable, I got myself
Yes,
off. So just do
let's-
another one, please.
Let's do another one like that. So I'm gonna put the worksheet to the side and let's do a negative one. So I'm gonna write a new problem. And I am gonna, I think I'm just gonna put my notes right below my do now, because I hate to waste this entire page. That seems silly. So I'm gonna title this so that if you ever need to look back and see what we're doing with negatives and inequalities, we can see it. So, say multiply by negative. Multiply or divide by a negative with a sign. Than greater than or greater than becomes less than. Flip flop. Or the equal to's, exact same thing. So let me give you an example. Let's do negative 4n plus 6 is less than or equal to, let's see, (26). And then below that, I'm gonna go ahead and draw a line for my graph. You know what? I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna let myself work it out first, so I don't not give myself enough room. Okay, so we have negative 4 times n plus 6 is less than or equal to 26. And here, I'll pull this out again for a second in case anybody was writing this sentence down. That's the rule. When you multiply or divide by a negative, you flip the sign from less than to greater than or from greater than to less than. So I'll give you guys a second if you're getting your notes out. Can I zoom in on the problem or is anyone still copying? Okay, let's do it. So now we have negative 4 times n plus 6 is less than or equal to 26. So somebody tell me, what would I do here first?
Subtract 6 on both sides.
Good. We want to get rid of plus 6. We'll subtract 6 on both sides. Plus 6 and minus 6 cancel. It's 26 minus 6.
20.
20. And then we'll bring everything down. Negative 4 times n is less than or equal to 20.
So when you get to solving your second step,
Mm-hmm.
you have to keep the sign. the
Yes.
same.
You don't flip the sign until you actually divide by a negative number or multiply by a negative number.
Okay.
Okay, so now I have negative 4 times n is less than or equal to positive 20. What would I do next?
Divide -4 on both ends.
Good. So I'm going to write this step in red to point out that this is where we're flipping the sign. Now we're dividing by a negative number. I'm dividing by -4 right now on both sides. We just divided by a negative. So at this step, whenever we bring everything down, what happens to the sign?
Well,
This is where it flips. It was less than or equal to. What does it become now?
greater than or equal to.
Greater than or equal to. Now let's finish this problem out. What happens on my side with the variable -4?
They cancel.
My -4's cancel, which leaves me with what?
And
Just n by itself. We flipped our sign. And what is 20 divided by -4?
16.
Oh, divided by -4. You're right. -5. -5. And if seeing it this way, just a line and that -4 confuses you, and because I've heard a few people say it, and accidentally subtract 4, you can absolutely write it. I don't want to write it on the same problem. Let me get a sticky note. You can absolutely write it like this. I've got -4 and 2, 20. Instead, we could say divided by -4, divided by -4. If it helps you to see the division sign, use it. Absolutely use it. And we do the same process. Okay, so now we have n is greater than -5. That would be our answer. We'll run through another one. This time we'll do one where we have to multiply by a negative. So let's see. I'll draw my little line. My plus and my minus. And anytime that we end up doing a quiz over this, I'll give you guys the number lines already drawn out, like on this worksheet. Save us a little time. So what does my graph look like?
-5 over the tick,
Perfect. -5 on my tick mark.
circle it, but cover it in.
Circle it and close it, cover it up. Good. And what direction?
Go to the right.
To the right. Now it's greater than. Perfect. Perfect. Do we have any questions about that one? See if you that's still writing, so I'll wait. Just a moment. You guys want to try one where we have to multiply by a negative? Okay, let's do it. All right, can I move this? Does anyone still need it? So moving it over just a little. This time, let's do n divided by -3 plus 2 is greater than 10. N divided by -3 plus 2 is greater than 10. Okay. So this is another two-step inequality. We've got two operations. We've got division, we're dividing by -3, and we have addition, we're adding 2. What would I do first?
I think get rid of the 2.
Yeah, take the 2 away, get rid of it. -2, -2. What would I do next?
Cross 2.
That's my 2's out. Go ahead and bring everything down now. N divided by -3 is greater than 8. Good. N divided by -3 is greater than 8. So, still trying to get n by itself. Yes, we've got division here, so we're going to do the opposite and multiply. We're multiplying by -3. We're multiplying by a negative here. So, something's going to happen. Let's see, I've got times -3 on this side, times -3 on this side. And something's going to happen to something here. What's happening, guys?
And I get rid of the 3s.
My -3's will cancel, which will leave me with n all by itself.
Then you're gonna switch your little line thing.
My symbol.
To the left.
Yes, we are flipping the sign. Why are we flipping the sign?
Multiply the negative number.
We multiply by a negative number. So, it becomes less than.
And you're gonna times that 8 and the 3, and everything -24.
Perfect. 8 times -3 is -24. Good. There's 2 examples. Happy to show more if y'all need it.
Can you pronounce the negative first?
Yes, absolutely. I can do that for you guys. I can do that. How many of you would want some practice for this? 1, 2, 3 of us. I'm gonna just print out enough for everybody. If you don't want it, you don't have to do it. Be optional. But if you would like extra practice, it'll be there for you. Okay. What would my graph look like, real quick?
-24 over here.
-24 on my tick mark.
Circle,
Circle, open or close?
open.
Open. What direction?
Left.
Left. Very nice.
Yeah.
Very nice, guys. That's lovely. Okay. Okay, so here is that again. Open. Second. Still writing. We've got 2 more on this worksheet. And we're gonna do something different. Okay, can I move this out of the way? Can we go back to the worksheet for a second? Okay, we've got 2 more problems. 2 more. I know. Killing you guys today. So, number 7. What would we do here first?
Add 5 on both sides.
Yes, we're gonna add 5 on both sides. We want to get rid of that -5. Okay. This will cancel. We'll bring it all down. Got 8 times n is less than 19 plus 5 is 24. And what do we do now?
Divide 8 on both ends.
Good. Let's divide by 8 on both sides. cancel. I'd be left with n is less than 3. Very good. N is less than 3. And our graph, 3 on the tick mark. Circle, open or close? Open, good. To the left. Very good. Very good. Any questions on that one? Okay, we're gonna move on to this last one, number 8. So number 8, another two-stepper. We've got 10 plus n divided by 3 is greater than or equal to -2. What should I do first?
Take away 10 on both ends.
Yes, let's take away that 10. We're gonna subtract 10 from both sides. Now be careful whenever you're subtracting from a negative number. What would -2 minus 10 be?
-12.
Good, -12. -12. We'll bring it all down. N divided by 3 is greater than or equal to -12. Good.
3 times 3,
Good. Times 3
both sides.
on both sides. Do we have to flip the sign here?
No.
No. Why not?
Not multiplying by a negative on both sides.
Yes, I'm not multiplying by a negative on both sides. I'm not changing the sign of my variable. My variable was positive from the beginning. It stayed positive. The only thing that's changing signs is my number that doesn't have a variable. So we don't have to do any flipping here. So my 3's will cancel.
Bring the n down.
Yes, bring my n down.
-36.
Yes, -36. My symbol stays the same. Greater than or equal to -36. Very good.
-36 over the tick.
-36 over that tick mark.
Circle colored in.
Circle colored in.
Right.
Shade to the right. Good. Very good. Amazing. You guys rock. Okay, any questions about any of these? All right. Pause this real quick. Pause. So there's our worksheet. Wonderful. And I'm gonna put this to the side and start a page of notes with you guys today. This is gonna be the last thing that we learn in Unit 1.
I have a question.
Yes.
So like when it comes to us taking out the test over, will it be everything we've done or will
Yes.
it be like in sections?
Everything we've done. So, it'll be like, let me show you an example. This is what our practice quiz. So this is how I do quizzes in here. Once we've completed covering everything in a unit, we will have what's called a practice quiz right before we take a quiz. And basically, a practice quiz is an exact copy of the quiz you'll take, just with different numbers, different problems. And you can use it on the quiz.
Yeah.
It is considered
Like
notes.
about it.
Yes. So we run through everything together. You will know exactly what to expect. You'll know exactly what's on it. And I'm thinking if today goes well and we understand this next topic, we'll probably do that Monday and just get that first one knocked out.
Tuesday.
Maybe Tuesday.
Monday's a holiday.
Oh, you're right. Tuesday. Forgot. Yeah, no class Monday. Thank you for reminding me. No class Monday. Day. Let me see if I can find the practice quiz.
She likes it.
So this Well, darn it, I can't really find one. They're all from last term. I'll show you a geometry one because for some reason I can't find my algebra practice quiz. But this is an example of what it'll be like. I will give out the practice quiz to everybody the day we do it, which will probably be Tuesday. And we will go through it together. So this is geometry, not you guys. We would go through it together, and I will tell you how many points each question is worth. I'll tell you where those points come from, how I'm grading the questions. I'll let you know how many points the thing is over total. And for example, this is geometry's unit 1 quiz. Their unit 1, well, this is their practice quiz. Their unit 1 quiz will look identical to this. The numbers will just be different. So same thing for you guys. We'll make this guide together. We'll know exactly how to do it. You'll know what to expect. And that's also your time to ask any questions you have. We'll spend a whole day just making sure we got it. So I don't want anybody to be nervous about it. I know that many of us, I know me personally, when I was in school, I did great on classwork, but tests and quizzes, it's like I would forget everything. So I base your grades more off of your participation, your exit tickets, all the stuff you turn in. Quizzes will count for a little portion, but remember, when you take a quiz, it counts for, you can make corrections to it just like homework. So, I try to give you every opportunity to succeed.
Yeah.
Again, no one has done poorly in this class unless they just weren't here.
Right.
So you guys will do great. No one should be too worried. And if you are, talk to me. Hopefully I can settle the worries.
No, I can vouch for that. If this
Well,
old woman can do it, and I was scared the first time, this is the best math teacher you could even have.
Oh, you're so sweet, Jenny.
She is.
We were glad, me and Kiki, glad we had you again.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I love doing it, really. I would not do what I was doing before this. I used to be for anyone that doesn't know, I was a elementary school music teacher. I taught kindergarten through 5th grade. Super, super fun. Just very overstimulating.
Ooh.
Harper Elementary, which is right by U of E. Yeah. So not too far from here. Algebra 1, Unit 1, and we are on day 4 today. Day 4 notes. This will be page 1, kind of. All right, and our title is going to be Compound Inequalities. Compound inequalities. So a compound inequality is just two inequalities combined on one graph. And I'm going to show you what that's going to look like. There's two different types of compound inequalities. There are what we call, color out here. There are and inequalities. I'm going to abbreviate that. And then there are what we call or inequalities. So, whenever we solve an inequality that says and I will always write the word and on it. For example, this is pre-algebra. It'll look something like this. Although we'll be solving it. I won't just give you the numbers like in pre-algebra. Something like n is greater than or equal to 1 and n is less than 5. Whenever I tell you it's and, our graph is going to look like this. First of all, instead of one tick mark, we'll have two tick marks for two numbers. And remember, on a number line, our numbers go in order from smaller to bigger, from left to right. So we would need to put the smaller number on the first tick mark and the bigger number on the second tick mark. You can make a little note of that if that helps you, welcome to, but this is something that will never change with number lines. All right, smaller number. Bigger number. With an and inequality, your graph is always going to have either open or closed circles, depending on the symbols, and you're always going to shade in between. You'll be shading in the middle. We'll do some of these examples together. An or inequality is the exact opposite. The order of where you put your number on the number line stays the same. Your smaller number still comes first. Your bigger number still comes second. You'll either have open circles or closed circles. But this time, instead of shading in the middle and between our numbers, we shade outside. Like that. So, once we've got that little key written down, I'm going to give you guys a few examples. Let me grab. I'm sure I've got a worksheet in here that I made. Let's see. I have to look from last term. So, let's say, let's do an and first. I think what I'm going to do is draw a dotted line in between these to keep our examples separate. We don't mix them up or anything. So our first example is going to be an and inequality. I'm going to give you, make sure you have enough room to write both of them. It's going to be two problems. -8 plus 10n is less than 32. And n minus 7 is greater than or equal to negative 52. Okay, let me zoom in on that. Here's what it'll look like as a problem. So we have both of these written. What we're going to do is we're just going to solve these one at a time. Let's start with the first one. Negative 8 plus 10 times n is less than 32. What would I do first?
8.
Plus 8. Good. Plus 8 on both sides. So bring everything down. Got 10 times n is less than 32 plus 8 is 40. Good. Okay, so I have 10 times n is less than 40. What would I do here next?
Right.
Good. Let's divide by 10 on both sides. So my 10s will cancel. I'll be left with n by itself.
Greater than 4.
Greater than or less than?
Okay, less than 4.
Yes. Less than 40 divided by 10 is 4. So that is the answer to the first part of our compound inequality. We have n is less than 4. Now I'm going to use a different color for the next one, just so we can see the difference here. And before we do that next one, do we have any questions so far? Is there any step that's got anyone confused? Okay, great. So now I have 5 times n minus 7 is greater than or equal to negative 52. What did I do first?
That's 7.
Add 7. Careful when you add 7 to that negative 52. Don't lose your negative sign. That's negative 52 plus 7.
Negative 45 to negative 42.
I hear two different answers.
Negative 45.
I think it's negative 45.
Oh.
If it was plus 10, it would be negative 42, I believe. Yeah, that's okay. So negative 45. Then we'll bring everything down. We have 5 times n is greater than or equal to negative 45. Okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
So do we do a flip-flop method in these or not?
Only if you multiply or divide by a negative. The rule will stay the same. If there is a negative that we multiply or divide by, then yes, we will flip it. But in this example, we aren't doing that. There's no
Okay,
negatives
so
on our
that-
variable.
Gotcha.
Yes. Okay. What would we do next?
Divide by 5.
Good. Let's divide by 5 on both sides. That would make my 5's cancel.
N is greater than or equal to negative 9.
Yes. N is greater than or equal to negative 9. Okay. So we have both of our inequalities solved. Now here's the fun part. We're going to draw our graph. So I'm going to start by drawing a line, and I want to give myself 2 tick marks because I have 2 answers. Okay, so 1, 2. Okay. Now, which number is going to go first on this number line? Positive 4 or negative 9?
Negative.
Negative 9. Good. Good. Negative 9 is smaller than 4. We don't just write them in the order that we solved them in. We got to put the smaller number first. So negative 9 goes here. Open circle or closed circle? Close. Good. And then we can see the sign. We're going to be shading to the right, but I don't want to go ahead and shade the whole thing. We could just put a little arrow to let me know, okay, I know I'm going to shade this way. So what goes on my next tick mark?
4.
4. Good. And is that circle open or closed?
Open.
Open. And what do you know? It's pointing to the left. It's less than, so it's going to go this way. And as you can see, since those arrows point to each other, just like in our example, this is what our graph's going to look like. We're shading in the middle. You don't have to use both colors. I'm just being goofy. So there's our answer. And what this means, if we're talking in terms of that variable n, is that if I wanted to know what number could n be, n can be negative 9, and it can be any number bigger than negative 9 all the way up to 4. But can it be 4? Can it be equal to 4? No, it has to be less than 4. That's what this graph tells us. It tells us that n can be any of the numbers that I shaded on the line. And what that means is if I were to put a number for n, like, I don't know, I could put in 3, for example. When I plug it back into the inequality, I will get a true statement. Negative 8 plus 10 times 3 is going to be less than 32. Hopefully. Should be. Okay. Any questions about this? Any questions at all? Alrighty. Let's do an example of the OR inequalities. Move it over a little. Zoom back in. All right, so I'm going to give you 2n plus 10 is less than or equal to negative 12, or 5n plus 3 is greater than 20. So here's my two inequalities, my compound inequality. So let's start with the first one. What would be my first step here to solving?
Take away 10.
Good. Take away 10 on both sides, minus 10, minus 10. 10s would cancel. Bring everything down. Got 2 times n. Less than or equal to, what's negative 12 minus 10?
22.
Negative 22. So if I have a negative number and then I subtract, if you think about how it's moving on the number line, it's going to give us a bigger negative number.
So you'll be pretty much adding, but you got to keep
Yes.
that negative number.
Yes, exactly. So if you remember back to pre-algebra, we talked about how subtracting is the same thing as adding a negative. So -12 plus -10, -22. You keep the sign and you just add them. So it's going to be -22. What would I do next?
Divide 2 both sides.
Divide by 2. And I really should have asked you guys before picking this color. Is this orange difficult to see for anyone? Okay. Just let me know if it is. I don't want anyone to be straining their eyes trying to see the board. So we're dividing by 2 on both sides. My 2's will cancel. I'll be left with n less than or equal to what?
It'll be 11.
-11. Right. Let's do the next one. 5n plus 3 is greater than 28. What do we do here?
-3.
Yeah. Yes, -3 on both sides.
5n
Mm-hmm.
is greater than 25.
5, yeah.
Divide by 5.
Perfect. Divide by 5 on both sides.
N is greater than 5.
Good. My 5's cancel. I'll bring down my n. Bring down my greater than sign. 25 divided by 5 is 5. So I have my 2 answers to my inequalities. I have n is less than or equal to -11, and then I have n is greater than 5. So I'm going to go ahead and get a line drawn. So, which of these 2 numbers would I need to write first?
-11.
-11. Good. That means I'm going to put 5 on the other side. So now, -11, open circle or closed circle?
Close.
Closed. Good. And what direction am I shading? To the left. And then 5, open or closed?
Open.
Open. To the right or to the left?
Right.
To the right. Here we go. That's it. It's like you guys already know how to do it. The only difference is you're putting 2 of them on one line instead of 1. That's the only difference there is. Everything else is the exact same rules, the exact same steps. Nothing changes. And then I even give you a little hint with the and the or. If it says and, you know they're going to be connected. If it says or, they're going to be facing away from each other every time. Okay. On a scale of 1 to 10, if you don't want to say it out loud, you don't have to. You could like put your fingers up or something. How do we feel right now about this? How do we feel?
Saying right. 10.
Okay, that's good. Good. Yay. I'm happy with that, guys. That's awesome. So here's what I'm thinking. I really just wanted to introduce this to us today. I think I'm going to go ahead and dismiss you early. If you would rather just take a break for the second period, you are free to go. During second period, instead of teaching, I'm going to work on making some practice problems for compound inequalities, for negative numbers and inequalities. And I'm hoping to have that done in the next 20, 30 minutes or so. If any of you want to stay, you're more than welcome to. But I'm gonna let you go early. No exit ticket today. Okay? That's it today. Welcome to stay if you want, but if not, you may go. That is it. Yes.
If you wasn't to put and or